What's good, Cowboy fans? It's your boy, Uncle Fred, back in the house, back in the saddle. One more again, more content. Please hit that like, comment, and subscribe, and share the content that you get from Uncle Fred and share it with somebody. We think we got some pretty good content. And hit that QR square that's in your on your upper left. And if you don't want to mind, send your boy a little change or whatever. I ain't begging. Just go ahead and do that. Cause we think we putting forth a good product, and you know, God just put good product is worth his hire. I believe so. So go ahead and do that, and like, comment, subscribe, become a part of the Uncle Fred Sports Experience. I guarantee you will not be disappointed. So, all right, so we're going to talk about a couple things. We're going to talk about uh, us saying goodbye to a Cowboy legend this week, and a lot of things that took place since last. And I just want to know what the heck happened to our front office. Who came from outer space and took the brains of our front office and implanted like reasonable and effective front office management skills and abilities into our front office? I don't know who. I don't. I'm gonna tell Jerry, Steven, I don't know who you are anymore. We're gonna talk about saying goodbye to a Cowboy legend, some moves that we made, some rearranging of some contracts. We say goodbye to a couple of other players who signed to other teams, and we're also made some signings, some major signings at the end of the week. And there's some couple of signings I'd like to see made before the end of the free agency period, and certainly before the draft. And then once the free agency is over and the draft comes, what the moves we've made, what they'll mean come draft night. So we're gonna talk a little bit about that, man. And man, just sit back, man, relax, and sit back for about 15, 20 with your boy Uncle Fred. I guarantee you'll enjoy the time you've been here. So let's just sit back and relax. We'll be right back.
Two times on the beat.
Once again, what's going on, people? Your boy Uncle Fred back with you. So we know when we last talked to you, we was ecstatic. First of all, let's just say this: the Cowboys front office is like being on the Great American Scream Machine. Now, I know they got some newer roller coasters at Six Flags since I ain't been there since 2015. Okay, that's 8 years ago. All right. Great American Scream Machine. When I was a kid, that was the thing, the rickety wooden roller coaster. It took you way up, and it's ricketing and creaking and stuff. But that thing would drop you down in your throat. Your heart would be in your throat, man. But the Cowboys front office is basically taking us on a roller coaster ride. And see, what I have vowed to do, I'm not going to come on here and knee jerk to every move that they make, or a move that I think they should make or didn't make, or things that I think they're doing something, they're not doing nothing. Because if that's the case, you'll be on every day, and he'll have you all over the map. So I kind of wait the thing out. Let's just see what happens. So we know when the free agency started, first day didn't nothing happen. Everybody like, oh, just like we thought. They ain't gonna do nothing. They ain't gonna do this like last year. They ain't gonna do nothing. And then boom, right out the gate, Cowboys give up a 5th-round pick to the Indianapolis Colts, pick up Stephon Gilmore. And then, of course, all these other guys that they re-signed. Re-signed Dono, okay? Re-signed Donovan Wilson, re-signed Leighton Vander Esch. I'm like, cool. They signed some of their own back. That's good. That's good. That's good. And then you start hearing them reworking all these contracts. Now, I got them wrote down. We reworked Dak's contract, and Zach's contract freed up about $30 million. Then they went and knocked on Tank Lawrence's door, and they got about some free. And let's understand this: when they talking about reworking these contracts, they're not taking money from these people. All they're doing is moving money from salary to bonus or salary to, to something else. And that allows them to spread that money and kick the can down the road. And sometimes they'll add what they call voidable years onto the end of that, and it'll make the cap responsibility for each year lessened, right? So that's what they'll end up doing. They don't lose any money as a result of that, right? So they reworked Tank Lawrence's, but see, that's one that we. How much longer you think we're gonna keep Tank? Because I think maybe he'll have this year, maybe next year, and then maybe they'll be talking about moving on from him. But he's getting up there now. He's like 31, something like that, 30, 31. So they moved some money around for Tank Lawrence, freeing up $9 million. So if my count, that's like $39 million. All right. They moved on to Tyron Smith. Now Tyron Smith actually did, because they were going to leave. They was going to cut him. They was going to let him go. All right. But I didn't want them to let Tyron Smith go, because I thought Tyron Smith was a good soldier last year. Okay. Because look, full training camp started, tore his hamstring off the bone. Right. I ain't never heard of such. Right. And with his age, what was he, 32? He's like, look, man, he ain't gonna be back he's out for the season. But Tyron, man, is one of them warriors, man. He worked it. No, man, it ain't gonna be like that. And the front office was saying, oh yeah, he'll be back before this. I'm like, man, he's not coming back. All the Cowboy creators said, man, we shouldn't expect shouldn't expect Tyron to be back before the season's over. Man, dude, I mean, if he was a younger guy, yeah, but sure enough, man, about midway through December, Tyron's back practicing. I'm like, what? Tyron's back? And then when he come back, his comeback kind of coincided with Terrence Steele going down with his ACL tear in the Houston Texans game. And then the next week against Jacksonville, they went to Tyron and said, hey, man, look here, you want to come back and play? Can you play right tackle? Now, Tyron could have said, "No, man, I'm a left tackle. Always been a left tackle. I'm a Hall of Fame left tackle, and I'm not fixing to put bad tape out there on in the air." But he was a good soldier. He went out there, whatever the team needed. He went out there and he gamely played right tackle. Now he wasn't as good as he was at left tackle, but he's better than most. He's better than Ball at left tackle. I guarantee you he was better than Ball, right? And so Tyron was a good soldier, man. So but yeah, they reworked his deal, and because I think he did that, and I think he was gonna get paid like $13 million this year, and his cap hit was gonna be about $17 million. So they got in there and they hammered out another deal, and he actually took less money because he's about to be on the street, right? I mean, somebody would have got him, don't get me wrong, but I think he's like family to the Joneses. So they worked out a deal. So he took a $6 million base salary, which is not bad money. But if you're Tyron Smith and you got 10 years in the game, you got all pros, 6, 7, 8 all pros, that. But here's what they did though. They laid in that thing with incentive. So he got a base of $6 million as his salary. But if he plays 50% of the snaps, he gets $500,000. And then each percentage point over 50, he gets an additional $500,000. So every 2 percentage points, he gets $1 million. From like 50 to 60, from 60 to 70, and whatever, all the way up, and then he can make as much as 17 million, but he had to hit a lot of marks, had to hit a lot of, he plays in, and then we have to win playoff games. And now if he gets $17 million, Cowboys will have found their way into the Super Bowl. So I hope Tyron Smith make all the money, right? But that saved about like $6-7 million. I'm counting. That's like 30. That's like $42 million right there, right? And then I'm hearing that they reworked Michael Gallup's contract, freeing up about $7 million. Okay. And so that kind of thing went on. So they freed up all that money. And so now, after the Stephon Gilmore signing, all this money being freed up, so people thinking, oh man, they got a deal in the works, man, something in the horizon. I can smell a deal in the air. You know how you can smell rain? How that rain, you can smell it in the air. Folks were saying, oh, I can smell a big deal the Cowboys working on. Why else would they be saving up all that money, right? Certainly, it couldn't be like they was accused of a couple of weeks ago, just saving up, creating cap space money, creating cap space just to look at the cap space, not planning on spending it. So Wednesday went by, because Tuesday's when they made the deal for Gilmore. And then Tuesday and Wednesday, they made all these rearrangements and stuff, right? So Wednesday go by, Thursday go by, Friday go by, nothing goes on. And then you had Cowboy creators coming on like, I'm done with this front office. They're just saving up all this money just for them just to look at, so that they can give $1 million to this bargain basement free agent, $1 million to this bargain basement free agent, and do that. We haven't done enough yet. We're off to a good start. We ain't done yet. So they was like, nah, they're just going to do the same thing. But I was like, oh, just hold on. And then bam, I'm heading to church. It's about 8:45 Sunday morning. My son taps me on the shoulder, sitting in the back seat. He said, Daddy, y'all just got Brandon Cooks for 2 picks. Huh? Brandon Cooks? I ain't heard nothing about Brandon Cooks. I mean, I've been hearing about, DeAndre Hopkins, and I've been hearing some stuff here and there about OBJ, and some stuff about Jerry Jeudy and the Denver Broncos receivers and stuff like that. But Brandon Cooks has kind of like been, something we tried last free agent. What do you call it? Trade deadline signing, and we didn't get it done. That's, I was like, man, he'd be a nice get. And yeah, they got him for 2 draft picks, and so I went on to church, and so I'm gonna shoot. Church was good. Then I was like, man, what we got? So I got out, and I said, let me see the deals of this. I'm thinking, man, they gave up a 2nd round and a 3rd round pick for him. I said, well, I guess you wouldn't have got a 2nd round pick better than him. So when I got to reading that thing, they gave up a 5th, and not their 5th. They gave up the 5th of their compensatory pick, which was, I think, pick 161, because they gave up 176 to get Gilmore, and they gave up 161 to get Brandon Cooks. And I'm like, man. But so that was done, and so since then they've also made some other signings and stuff. So we'll get into that in here just a minute. But also I want to talk about another thing that happened this week, and it was sort of sad, but it needed to happen. But just because it needs to happen, don't make it easier for you to digest. And the Cowboys released Ezekiel Elliott this week. And yeah, I kind of feel a certain kind of way about Zeke. And I know Zeke was going down. Zeke had the little PCL, and he's got that big knee brace. But one thing you won't say about Zeke is a gamer. Zeke can come out there and give it all he got. And a lot of them 3rd and 1s, 3rd and 2s, whatever. Zeke going in there, he bashing getting them yards. He had his worst year as a pro this year. I'm going to give you some of his stats, man. Ezekiel Elliott came onto the league, burst into the league in 2016, number 4 pick. Kind of didn't like the pick when they got it. Never liked really picking a back in the 1st round, especially not in the top 5. That's sort of like a taboo, right? You'd have to be generational to do that, right? And I didn't know if he was generational. Sure, I know what he did at Ohio State, because he ran up and down the field against my Alabama Crimson Tide in the Sugar Bowl, in the was it the Capital One Bowl? What bowl? I can't remember what bowl, but it was in 2016, January of 2015. I'm sorry, ran for like 215 yards against them. Ain't never seen nothing like that in my life. But anyway, they drafted. But I wanted Derrick Henry. But of course, I'm a Roll Tide. I'm like, man, we can get Derrick Henry in the 2nd round. And they could have got Derrick Henry in the 2nd round, right? I wanted them to get Jalen Ramsey in the 1st round and come back and get Derrick Henry in the 2nd round. But they went and got Ezekiel Elliott in the 1st round, right? he burst on the scene, rookie of the year. Well, he's offensive rookie of the year. I think Dak was the rookie of the year. Ended up with um, yeah, I got his stats pulled up right here. 1,631 yards on 322 carries. Played 15 games. Didn't play that last game against Philly. Let him rest. He probably would have had about 1,800 yards that season, maybe. And would probably could have. I don't know if he'd have had the record because DeMarco Murray, I think, had 1882, so he would have had to have had 250 yards. So I don't think he would have got that in that game. But anyway, then he come back the next year, which he missed 6 games because of the little scandal or whatever. Which, according to Lisa Friel, it wasn't no scandal. The girl was not credible. But Roger Goodell, wanting to get in good with the Me Too movement in the women's groups, decided to go ahead and punish Zeke, even though because it was a bad look and bad PR, whatever. I don't want to get into all that, but I was not in favor of that because the girl, the woman that was over the proceedings, Lisa Friel, said that it was not the girl was not credible. She changed the story like several times. It wasn't credible, right? So so it was more likely nothing happened like she said it was. She was mad at him, and she made up a story to make his life worse or whatever, and she did because she did that, and because the league with this he did, Goodell did with it. Zeke never got any endorsement deals because once you get classified as that, you don't get endorsement deals. It's what it is. But anyway, so even with that, he had 983 yards that second year, 983 playing 10 games. And he came back in 2018, which was his best year, in my opinion, because not only did he rush for 1,434 yards and his second rushing title, but he also caught 77 passes that year for 567 yards and 3 touchdowns. It's enough for catch, to rush 304 times for 1,400 yards, but then catch 77 passes is something else, right? Then he came back in 2019, and that's the year that he held out, which I didn't like, but I feel like he felt like he probably had to because he's not like Dak. Dak's always been squeaky clean, so he's getting all the endorsements. He's doing the sleep number. He's doing the doesn't he do a Subway commercial too? I know he does one of the yogurt commercials. He does the direct TV commercials. I mean, he's on a commercial every day. So I mean, he's getting all those millions, right? And Zeke's not getting any of that. So he has to make all his money on football. But then you know how the system is. The system would have you use a running back up for 4 years, give him that fifth year option, use that, and then get rid of him after that fifth year. And he's like, nah, bro, I'm gonna, I see what you're doing. I'm gonna go ahead and get my money now. So he held out, which I never like guys holding out. But as a running back, I see it. I get it, right? So he held out for, and then they, he come back. He was sort of out of shape, but he still rushed for 1,357 yards in 2019 and scored 12 touchdowns. Of course, we went 8-8. Okay. And then, of course, that's when we acquired Tony Pollard. From that point on, he was sharing the backfield. 2020 was the COVID year. Jason Garrett was fired, so we got Mike McCarthy, and they split and carry. So he only had 979, only four yards of carry, 6 yards, six touchdowns. 2021, 1,002 yards on 232 carries, 236, which is his least amount of carries he's ever had since he's been in the league. Even the year he missed 6 games, he had more carries than that. He had more carries than 237. Okay, he had 242, and the yardage is around the same. Okay, and then this past year, he had his least amount of yards because 193 carries went to Tony Pollard. So this year he had 231 carries for 876 yards and 12 touchdowns. As a total, Zeke's has played 103 games. He's missed 1, 6, 8, 9, He missed 11 games in his career out of 7 years. He missed 11 games. Okay. And six of them were from the suspension. He rushed for 1,881 rushes for 8,262 yards, 68 touchdowns, a career average of 4.4 yards per carry. He also has 305 catches for 2,336 yards and 12 receiving touchdowns, giving him a total of 80 touchdowns for his career. Now the question was asked, Zeke, man, look, man, still remember that game against the Steelers in November of 2016, that third down and 12 or whatever. He took that swing pass and hit his head on the goalpost, went 83 yards. That's still his longest pass play of his career. I still remember that 60-yard run he made against the Bengals. Just took that thing right up the middle, and next day, that thing opened up, and he gone. I still remember in that December playing against the Detroit Lions, him jumping into the Salvation Army kettle. I still remember that. Man, still remember him doing that on last year. Or was that year before last? See, one year he did it again. It wasn't the same because he can't jump up in there like he did when he was in 2016. But Zeke certainly gave us a lot of good memories, man. And he should get up in the Ring of Honor. But the question is Zeke a Hall of Famer? And so his comp is Terrell Davis. Now, Terrell Davis is a Hall of Famer. Now, Terrell Davis didn't play but 7 years, just like Zeke, but only rushed for 7,607 yards. 4.6 yards a carry to Zeke's 4.4. 60 touchdowns to Zeke's 70. 68. Zeke has 68 touchdowns, and he has 60. All right. His longest is 71, and Zeke's longest is 60. That run against the Bengals, I remember that. That was his longest run. And then 83-yard against Pittsburgh was his longest pass play. Okay. And then, of course, Terrell only has 169 catches for 1,280 yards and 5 touchdowns. So, to be perfectly honest, man, Zeke had a better career than Terrell Davis. Now, I know I may seem biased because, Zeke's my guy, but Terrell Davis was a beast, I will say. But Terrell Davis had a higher peak than Zeke, but then he fell off the cliff. Because you know what they say, when these backs go over 375, 380 carries in a season, they kind of fall off. Remember, that happened to DeMarco Murray. DeMarco Murray is never the same after the 1,882-yard season in 2014. He was never the same. When he went to the Philadelphia Eagles, which they didn't use him, right? Whatever. Then he went to the Titans. He split carries with Derrick Henry. He never, and then a year or two later, he was out of the league. Okay. But let me give you Terrell Davis's history here. He came into the league in 1995 and promptly rushed for 1,000 yards, 1,117. Next year, 1,538 and 13 touchdowns. Next year, 1,750 and 15 touchdowns. And next year, 2,008 yards and 21 touchdowns. I think he was MVP of the Super Bowl of that year, if I'm not mistaken. And then the injuries came. And then the next year, he only had 211 yards, only played 4 games. Then the next year, he only played 5 games and 282 yards. And then his 2001 year, when his last year, he rushed 167 times for 701 yards and no touchdowns. So it was like, and then he fell off a cliff. Whereas, he only has like 4,000-yard seasons. Okay. And I think that's about as many. Zeke's got 1, 2, 3, 4. Zeke has 4,000-yard seasons. Zeke has over 1,000, has 600 more yards than him. But the thing is, Zeke never got to a Super Bowl. Only got to the division round of the playoffs twice, and never won a Super Bowl MVP. So that might be his thing there. So, but I mean, But in totality, man, I think he had a better career. He just didn't win a Super Bowl. Terrell won two. That might be the difference. Just don't know if running backs are held to the same standard as winning a Super Bowl. You automatically, unless you some sort of stiff, you don't win a Super Bowl and not get a Hall of Fame bid as a quarterback. Eli Manning got one. He's like the top five in interceptions thrown in the league, right, or somewhere around the top five. And only made the playoffs like the years he won to the Super Bowl. He missed the playoffs a ton of years. So, but he's in the Super Bowl. He's in the Hall of Fame because he got two Super Bowls and two Super Bowl MVPs. He's in the Super Bowl, right? So I don't know if the same standard is held for running back. So, but man, that's been a thing, man. It's an emotional thing because I remember that kid came into the league and how he set the world on fire. Him and Dak was together. They were a tandem. And Dak, man, was like looked like he was holding back tears. He said, yeah, man, it's gonna be different in this backfield without 2-1. And I know exactly what he's talking about, man. So it's gonna be different, man. But running backs are just like that. You use them and then you get on out the way and let them go somewhere else. And so that's what we've chosen to do. So we'll see where he goes. Now it's gonna be interesting where he falls now because he could go. I've heard Buffalo's showing some interest in him. Now he's not gonna get the kind of money he's owed, man. Before you feel sorry for Zeke's made about $70 million in his career. All right. The most ever for a running back ever in the history of the NFL. Okay. So, and running backs really ain't going for a lot of money. Jeff Wilson and Ron Mostert. And then you got a guy like Austin Eckler for the Chargers. He's mad getting $6 million, but ain't nobody really knocking at his door. The Chargers have given him an opportunity to go get him a better deal if he wants. If not, come back and play for this $6 million. Austin Eckler caught 107 passes last year in Joe Lombardi's offense, but you know good and well, you know good and well that your boy not gonna use him like that because Tony Pollard should have had about 75 catches if running. But Kellen Moore not doing that. So, but anyway, but the back has become whatever that is. So he's gonna have to. But the Bills may have some interest. He'll probably give him about $2.5 million. That's what he's gonna get, and down from the 15, 16 he made last year. And then see the Bills just let go of Devin Singletary. He's gone with the Texans now. So there's a place for him. Maybe a place for him with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Considering that his running back coach Skip Peete is the running backs coach at Tampa Bay, and he might put in a good word for him. Probably for $2.5 million. You can have Ezekiel Elliott. He's still a good name and a big name and sells tickets because he's Ezekiel Elliott, right? Or maybe even with the Chargers, if they do elect to let Austin Eckler walk, Kellen Moore, he knows Zeke very well ever since 2018. Actually, he's been with him ever since he's been in the league because remember when Zeke and Dak came into the league, Kellen Moore was a quarterback on the staff. He was a quarterback, right? So they've known each other the whole time. So he would certainly put in a good word for Zeke, and I'm sure they could find use for him. So, but yeah, it's a tough day as a Cowboy fan. Zeke was a dude, man. He was a dude, man. And we sure are sorry to see him go, man. But that's part of the business, man. A lot of people don't like that part of the business. They want to make it personal, and it's not. But anyway, let's get back to this Brandon Cooks deal. So the Brandon Cooks deal. So a lot of people weren't on board with that. Now I heard the different Cowboy creators talk about this thing. I was listening to Law Nation on Monday. Law Nation, they ain't liking the deal. He was mad at the deal. The folks came on the show like, dude, this is a good deal. No, it's not. They paying him too much. $12 million is too much. See, what it ended up being. See, Brandon Cooks was owed. I think his cap hit may have been like 20-something million dollars, but then his salary was only was 18 million. So in addition to the Cowboys getting him for a 5th round pick this year and a 6th round next year, they also negotiated with the Texans. And I think the Texans just wanted, because he's been such a good dude for them, that they wanted to do him a solid. And then you got I never can remember that guy's name is the new coach for the 49ers. Can't never remember that dude's name. It'll come to me in a second. But I think he's creating a positive vibe for the Texans. I mean, Texans making some moves. You got Devin Singletary. Uh, they picked up Dalton Schultz. We'll talk about that in a minute. They picked up Noah Brown for $2 million a year. They picked up uh, Jimmy. I'm gonna say Jimmy Franks. Me and names. The cornerback for the 49ers. Okay. They picked him up, and so they picked up a bunch of players, man. Sheldon Rankins. I mean, they picked up some dudes. Uh, Shaq Mason. Uh, and so a guard they picked up and they re-signed Larry Tunstall. So whatever. So they got some stuff going on there. But anyhow, but I think Brandon Cooks had been such a good dude for them and got a good relationship with what is his name? Nick. I won't say Costancio. I think that sounds like what his name is, but it's not. All right. He used to be the GM in New England when Cooks was there, so they got a relationship, right? Um, and so they also picked up a third of his salary. So we only had to pay 12 of the 18. They picked up the 6. Genius, right? Shoot. Jerry, Steven, and whoever got together and said, shoot, you finna pay this 12? We're gonna rework that 12. So he and Brandon, they got together and they worked out that deal. And they worked it out where they turned like 8 of that 12 into like a signing bonus. And he only gonna count $4 million against the cap this year. So they're creating all this cap space, right? So they got all these deals on the horizon, right? So the question comes is like, okay, what are we gonna do with all this money? See, like they said, we end up getting Cooks, and like I said, my man Law didn't like the deal. Right? He was stuck on we can go get DeAndre Hopkins, but DeAndre Hopkins was either gonna get a second or a third round, but those are premium picks, and they wanted a player. What I've heard. So that means you would have had to have given them Michael Gallup and given up a second or a third round pick, and versus getting Cooks and only giving up a 5 and a 6. The money was about the same. I think I want to say that Hopkins was due 19 this year and 15 next year. You see, they don't even have to have Cooks next year. They're gonna probably. I think it may be like 13 or something like that, and they can come back and revisit that if he's not good, right? Or he, not what he cracked up to be. But he didn't like the deal. He's not high on Brandon Cooks. Man, I've been high on him because I think even though I like Hopkins better as a receiver, because I think he comes in probably as the best receiver on our team, even though CD will be our number one. But Cooks fits better. You understand what I mean by that? See, yeah, Hopkins is a better receiver. Let me give you a basketball analogy. Let's say you were building a team, right? A basketball team, and I don't know if you know basketball, and you was gonna and you started. You got say you got Jason Kidd as a point guard. I know he's retired, but Jason Kidd was a ball distributor. Couldn't shoot that well until later in his career. So you were signing like a 2 guard and a 3, which is a small forward. And let's say you had an opportunity to sign, say, DeMar DeRozan and Jimmy Butler. DeMar DeRozan is a 2, Jimmy Butler is a 3. But you have an opportunity to sign Klay Thompson as a 2, as opposed to DeMar DeRozan. Now, many will tell you DeMar DeRozan might be a better player than Klay Thompson, but he's not as good a fit as Klay Thompson. What do you mean? Well, because Jason Kidd can't shoot, and Jimmy Butler's not an outside shooter. If you put DeMar DeRozan in the lineup, then teams could just pack the paint and make you shoot over contested arms. But if you got Klay Thompson, that means you got to extend the defense out to the 3-point line, right? So what I'm saying is, yeah, you could have got DeAndre Hopkins, but basically he's nothing more than a grown-up CD Lamb. They're basically the same receiver. He's just better at it than CD is, right? They're the same guy. Good contested catch guy. Although he's not as good at it as CD's not as good at it as DeAndre. DeAndre Hopkins probably has the best hands in the league, and he's a yak guy, run after the catch guy, that kind of guy, right? And those are the things CD does. Neither of them are exceptionally fast or exceptionally good route runners, right? So you get a CD Lamb who's a yak guy, contested catch guy, yak guy, whatever, that kind of guy. And then you get a Brandon Cooks, who is a very competent route runner and he ran 4.3 in college, right? Coming out, I think it was Arizona, Was it Arizona? Shoot, get me the line. I got his stats right here, man. Shoot, what are you talking about, man? Oregon State, okay? 5'10", 183 out of Oregon State. I don't know why I thought he came from Arizona, okay? Don't know. But anyhow, last year he had 57 catches for 699 yards. But then, he's got like 6,000 yard season and a 90 catch season in 2021, which prompted him to get that deal he got from the Texans, right? This was when they still had Deshaun Watson. Okay. So anywho, he didn't like it. He didn't like the deal, and he was like, "Man, they could have that. This deal ain't gonna work." But then they found out the deal ain't, and he had his numbers wrong. He thought it was $20 million, and and I usually Law Nation be all on there. But I know he was wanting DeAndre Hopkins, and a lot of y'all was wanting DeAndre Hopkins. And like I said, he is the better receiver of the receivers that was available to us, and he's still campaigning to come to the Cowboys, right? I'll play for less money because he wants to play for the Cowboys, right? And look, man, I think, we might need to just leave well enough alone. We got Cooks, we got CD, we got Gallup coming back, and we still got our young guys, Jalen Tolbert. We'll see what he got. Maybe with this new regime, what he can do. We got Simi Fehoko, who, a big dude, Stanford, 6'3", like 200 pounds, 200 something pounds, runs like a 4.3, 4.4 40. And somehow that dude's got to be able to be a player. So, and I thought I saw somewhere on Facebook today that we had re-signed T.Y. Hilton. And I don't know if that was from last year or what. I thought I saw that. I went back and see if I see that again or was I seeing things, which I thought wasn't a bad deal because you could get him for about $2 million. And you could never have enough veteran presence receivers. You got Cooks as a veteran guy, and you would have T.Y. Hilton as a veteran guy. But somebody check that out for me. I thought I heard that somewhere that they may have re-signed. And I would like it. He's a good route runner, quick, and he brings a lot of infinite knowledge to the young receiver room. So I would say, yeah, go get him, and you done at receiver. All right? So today we pick up Ronald Jones. Was a free agent, played for the Chiefs. He's done won 2 Super Bowls, one for from the Buccaneers and from the with the Chiefs last year, even though he only carried the ball like 70 times last year. But Ronald Jones has got him being 25 years old, only got like 500 carries on his body. He's still fresh, he got the same average as Zeke has, 4.4 yards a carry. Had almost 1,000 yards the year they won the Super Bowl. When in 2020, he had like 978, 5 yards a carry, 7 touchdowns. 2021 stepped down to like 428 on like 100 carries as they splitting carries with Leonard Fournette. And then last year, they were let him go, and he ended up going to Kansas City. He had 70 carries for 17 carries for 70 yards and a touchdown last year for the Chiefs. But he won him another Super Bowl, so you got 2 of those things. So we got guys that's got Super Bowl, experience. Gilmore's got one from 16, 14 and 16. I think he has 2. And then you got Ronald Jones, who's got 2. One from the Chiefs, one from the Bucks. And then Cooks doesn't have one, but he's been to 2, excuse me. because he lost in 17 for the Patriots, and then went to the Rams the next year to face the Patriots and lost, and to the Patriots. So he's been to two Super Bowls. Okay. Um, so yeah, Ronald Jones, he's a kind of a versatile back, little power. He's not been as good in the NFL as he was when he was at USC. That's for sure. But that's a good addition that we picked up. Now we also picked up this guy named Okogie. He was a guy that's been on our practice squad. He's like 300 pounds. I think they're gonna try to move him to defensive line. Um, and so that's a guy we picked up. And then, like I said, some departures. Like I said, Noah Brown left, and then of course the Dalton Schultz thing. If I digress for a minute, now there was a dispute going as his contract negotiations was going on. That he turned down a 3-year, $39 million contract, which I was upset that they offered that to Dalton. I'm like, let that dude walk and go get you a tight end in the draft. There's a Dalton Kincaid. There's a Darnell Washington. There's a Michael Mayer. There's a what's that kid's name? Is it Iowa or Tulsa? I can't think of that kid's name. It's a couple other tight ends. There's a Musgrave. I think he's Oregon State. There's several tight ends that's out there, right? So I mean, if you gotta have a tight end, get that dude. Don't or pick up one of these free agent tight ends, like get you an Austin Hooper or somebody like that, or because I think even what's the dude's name is with Hurst, Hayden Hurst. I think he's available from the Bengals because the Bengals just picked up a tight end. They picked up golly, who they just picked up? They picked up a tight end. So they're done with tight end. So Hayden Hurst could be had. So you ain't got to have Dalton Schultz, right? But there was a dispute that he turned down a 33-year, $39 million contract, betting on himself that he could get a better deal, where there wasn't better deals to be made. Matter of fact, Mike Gesicki, who was a guy that we had talked about maybe getting, he don't block. He's just a glorified pass receiver, right? He went to the New England Patriots for basically the same deal that Dalton Schultz got. And the deal says 1 year, $9 million, but it's really 4 years with an option to be up to $9 million if he reaches certain plateaus. So, hey man, get your money, dog. Get your money, man. But the money wasn't there because he was thinking like he's gonna get David Njoku's money, who got like 14, 15 million, and Kelsey and Kittle, which he not them dudes. Okay, he's not those guys, right? He's at that next level, right? He's not at those guys' level, right? So. But anyhow, man, that's on that. So anyhow, so here's the things I think they're still working on. Cowboys still working on because they freed up all that money. So amongst their own, I know they still want to sign Jonathan Hankins because we still need that one tech guy in the middle that can hold the run down and make some runs, some stuff in the passing game. But we still need Jonathan Hankins. He could be had for about $3 million, And so I'm hoping. I'm hearing they're working on that. I'm hearing they're still working on Bobby Wagner, who you can probably have for about $7-8 million a year. And I think that, and then once you do that, I think our defense is set. All right. But then I've been hearing too that another defensive guy that they're looking at is Ashawn Robinson. And I pulled him up. He's a free agent from the Rams. Played at Alabama. 6'4", 330 pounds, 7th season. Basically he's a run stuffer. Grinds it up in the middle. He don't have no whole lot of sacks. He got like 7 sacks in his career. Got a bunch of tackles for losses and tackles and things of that nature. But that's a guy you get in the middle. You probably get him for about $4 million a year. And if you do that, you get Bobby Wags. You re-sign Jonathan Hankins and go get Ashawn Robinson. I think our defense is set, all right, because we got corners and stuff like that. We probably could use maybe another pass rusher, but another edge and stuff like that. But you can get that in the draft. But the thing is, what that does for you as I close this video, what that does for you when you address all those needs. See, we got a running back. A running back. I mean, I know you got Tony Pollard and you got Ronald Jones, and then you got Davis. All right. They also signed Dowdle. To the practice squad. He'll be competing, but you still might get you one in the third or fourth round. There's some backs to get. That dude from Tulsa. I've been hearing about. I can't think of his name. I should have wrote it down. But the dude from Tulsa, he's a good back. And then, of course, about Bijan Robinson, whatnot. But the thing is, going to the draft, now you just draft the BPA, best player available. Okay. You don't have to draft for need, because what we've fallen into is a trap where we draft so well that we expect the guys we draft to just move right in. And really, you kind of want to give rookies a learning curve. But we realize every rookie not going to be Michael Parsons, right? Every rookie not going to be Trayvon Diggs, okay? They're not going to be, all right? Most of them have a learning curve. Just like we expect big things out of Sam Williams this year at edge, So there's a couple of guys that I think, if he falls to 26, you might get you a Nolan Smith, to play edge, Kalaja Canty, who's a defensive lineman, it might fall to you at 26. But see, this is the way they do it as we close the video. When you're building your draft board, you build like your top 50 players, and then you break it down to position groups. Your top like 10 receivers, your top 10 offensive linemen, guards and tackles or whatever, and centers. Your top 10 tight ends, your top 10 running backs, your top 10 edge rushers, your top 10 D-line, the top 10 defensive backs. And then you kind of put grades on them and then list them on your board. And then each guy got a score. Like a Bijan Robinson might be a 10 because he probably a top 5 player in the draft, but that position ain't a top in the draft, right? Because we kind of don't think running back is something you got to have. You can just get any guy. Shoot, the Chiefs won with Isaiah Pacheco, who was a 7th-round pick, and a 1st-round pick couldn't get off the bench. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire, okay? So, yeah, you don't necessarily need a back, right? You just need to be competent. So, Bijan Robinson might not be high on that thing, but what you've got to remember, though, is a guy like Bijan Robinson, if he is there at 26, yeah, you get him. And there's certain guys, if they're there at 26, you get him. If a Broderick Jones at tackle is there, you get him, right? If Jackson Smith and Jigba, even though our receivers are good, if Jackson Smith and Jigba is there for the receivers, if they're and he's ranked higher than you get him, right? If what's the guy's name from Iowa State? I wrote his name down. I can't remember. But he's an edge rusher from Iowa State that a lot of people have slept on. If he's there at 26, you get him. All right. And guys like that. So so that's the thing. Doing as much as we've done in the offseason, in the free agent period, the moving and shaking, the trade and stuff, has made it where drafting is like a luxury, not a necessity. We can just draft the best athlete, best guy. Even though it may be, like I said, we really kind of good at edge rusher. They're going to be signing Dante Fowler this week also. I forgot about him. Dante Fowler, he'll probably get him for about $4 or $5 million. He's a good solid edge. But what you do, you draft to replace him. Now, true enough, Sam Williams should be replacing him in a year. Okay, and then you got to draft a guy to take over for Tank, right? So the next dude, if a Nolan Smith comes, his job is to take Lawrence's position. That's the way that thing works, right? You draft a Jackson Smith and Jigba. What's his job? His job is to take Brandon Cook's job, right? That's his job. And you move on from Brandon Cooks, okay? That's the way this thing works, right? So we'll just kind of see how this thing goes, man. But, hey, it's all good, man. But all I know, man, is I know Vosh Lombardi and his guy, William Skywalker Steele, those guys, they love the Brandon Cook signing. They were like, man, this dude's the best. They watch film. Law watches film too. So it's like, but I mean, dudes can have a difference of opinion, right? There's nothing wrong with that. And so what I do, I watch a lot of the Cowboy creator stuff. I get there, I get them so I can get content, so I can get information, and then I make that my own information because I have my own opinions about what I see, based on what I see and what I know. Right? That's how we do this thing. And we all of us Cowboy creators are, we're a community, and we kind of lean and depend on each other and stuff like that. So that's kind of how that thing works. So we're gonna see, but what we've seen this year is a far difference from what we saw last year. I'll quote William Steele, Will Steele. He says, "What you got to understand about this," and I'm gonna curse for once, and don't quote me on that. And you actually know I'm not. I'm gonna not say it, but you'll know what I mean. He said the thing that's frustrating with the Cowboys, especially with last year, is that last year we were 12-5. We had the second best record in the league. And the front office literally sat on their double, and did nothing. Jim Rome even said, they did nothing and then let Amari Cooper get away for a fifth rounder. And he said that amounted to organizational malpractice. And I'm going to be honest with you. That should have got Jerry Jones fired as a GM. Because you only got about a 4-year windows with a group of players that you can win a certain number, because players come and go. Back in the day, you had dynasties. Teams would dominate for 6, 7, 8, 9 years because those players stayed with those teams and they had no recourse. Right now, what are the contracts? 3, 4 years. That player going on somewhere else in free agency. So you got like a 3-4 year window, and we had 2 years at 12-4. And in one of them years, you did nothing in the offseason. Will Steele said they said you literally sat on your and did nothing. And then everybody dumping on Dak. And I know a lot of you Cowboy fans don't like Dak. Dak threw 16 interceptions. Yeah. But do you check out who he's throwing to? When your second receiver is Noah Brown, and I know everybody want to make Jalen Hurts a whole lot better than Dak, but Dak Gummit, he's throwing to Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown and Dallas Goedert, okay, and the running back's name? Golly, I can't think his name, but you see what I mean. He's a Pro Bowler also, so you have weapons. Most quarterbacks, if you take their weapons away, they're not as good as they were with weapons. I don't know why people don't get that. Because he didn't throw for 16 interceptions last year when he had Amari and CD and Cedric Wilson. Okay. All right. He didn't throw for 16. He didn't throw for 16 interceptions. He threw for 37 touchdowns, right? But you took weapons away. Okay. Essentially, you took 2 weapons away. You took away Amari Cooper, and then Michael Gallup went down and wasn't the same. I'm just saying. And then Dalton Schultz was in and out of the lineup. You had Tony Pollard, but Tony Pollard is a running back. He does his thing, but I'm just saying, when the organization don't do the things that they're supposed to do, it's really low-hanging fruit to blame the players for that. It really is. Now, I'm going to tell you this, though. Dak Prescott go out there and wet the bed this year, especially if they go out and pull out a Jackson Smith and Jigba, and if they pull off a T.Y. Hilton, and then you had that, your wide receiver room consists of all that, and then and then they, I don't know who they pick up in the draft and running back, and you don't do no better. You still throw a whole lot of picks, and you can't get past then we really got to have a talk. We really got to have a talk. But that's all I got today, man, for the desk, Uncle Fred. I just wanted to let y'all know the Cowboys front office got us going up, and then we then they let us down. And it was like, man, it's back up, man. They level that thing off, and And I think it's going to end with Bobby Wags and Jonathan Hankins, and maybe Mayshawn Robinson before we get to this draft. We're going to see what happens. But anyway, that's all I got from the desk of Uncle Fred. Please like, comment, subscribe, become a part. Donate to the QR codes on the screen. Become a part of the Uncle Fred's sports experience. I guarantee you will not be disappointed. We'll catch you guys later. God bless.